I'm Mike Sheridan and you're very welcome to another episode of The Delve. Today my guest is author, journalist and businesswoman Caroline Foran. Caroline has had 2 best-selling books, Owning It and The Confidence Kit. She was also the editor of entertainment.ie at the depressingly young age of 26 and co-founded the increasingly successful Gaff Interiors with her business partner Jo Linehan a couple of years ago. So Caroline, thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Just in that intro there, it's because I thought you were 26 when you first became the editor of entertainment.ie, but you were 24.
I know.
When you became the editor. That's like
Young.
That's super. Well, it's kind of amazing to kind of have that type of responsibility at 24 years old. And I've mentioned the 2 books at the top there as well, but that was really your kind of gateway.
Oh, absolutely.
Into like media, into being a writer, being a journalist.
And everything I learned from you.
All right.
It was my first. It was my first job. I was fresh out of my masters, and I was just desperate to do any kind of writing and media stuff. And I thought entertainment.ie seemed like the perfect place to do that.
How many other places did you email first, though?
None, but I emailed every single one of you. And I was like, okay, his name's Mike Sheridan. It's got to be like Mike.Sheridan or Mike@Sheridan. And I figured out a way to get in touch with you and everyone else. And you were the person who got back to me.
Yeah.
And then I found a way to get myself in the door. And I just worked my arse off until I got to be editor. So, yeah. I was a bit young, I suppose, but I was very driven.
You were very driven. You still are, obviously. You're only gone 30 now.
Yeah.
But I mean, just going back to that time, we were only kind of talking off camera there as well about how the first thing you did for us was research. So you kind of started as an intern.
Yeah.
Kind of researching from home and stuff. Then we bring you in a couple of days a week, and then you became full time, and it kind of rolled from there. But the first thing you did for us was research for Nicolas Cage.
I know. Not that you even needed to be done. Like, you were going off to your interviews, and I was like, how can I be of use to you in some way? So I would do my like color coded cross checking, or like what's the word I'm looking for? Just a big document on an actor.
You
for
literally
you to
did
have.
like 3 pages of research on Nicolas Cage. This is amazing.
You probably didn't even read it. And then I was like, there you go. I just wanted to prove my ability, or that I could be indispensable in some way, and be that person that was in everyone's sort of peripheral, so that when a job did come about, I was like, hi, it's
Give me a job.
So like, really, you had no choice.
But that's exactly how it worked, though. I mean, I was the same when. I remember like Julian Douglas, who was our managing director at entertainment.ie back in the day, and the founder of the site took a chance on me.
Yeah. And you took a chance on me.
Well, I think that's the thing. In if you feel like somebody's got a decent work ethic and a little bit of talent, then you kind of run with it. So then you kind of became a staff writer.
Data entry first.
We all did the data entry.
Yeah.
Which is like, I remember Julian saying that to me back in the day about entertainment.ie, because it's such an institution.
Yeah.
21 years old, but the lifeblood of the site was cinema listens.
And God forbid you put the wrong time in for the wrong movie, and then someone emailed you or rang the office and you were like, fuck.
Yeah, it was very stressful.
It was very stressful.
And then so when you got an opportunity to write or an opportunity to do interviews, it was just,
it
was incredible. But you've obviously got a great work ethic, and you freelance now as well. So is that where you got your work ethic from, or did you always have it?
Absolutely. I think I probably always had a good work ethic, in that I'm afraid to fail at anything, or I don't want to do a bad job. So I think I probably always had that way. And if I'm somewhere, I want someone to think, oh, she's really good. We're glad we hired her. Obviously, after I convinced you to take me on, I wanted to be worth it. And then I left entertainment.ie. When I was editor, I kind of felt like I'd hit a ceiling, and because it was my first job and I was probably a little bit too driven for my age, I thought I had to just keep pushing myself and go on to the next thing. And in looking back, like, I didn't need to do that. I could have just enjoyed it for a while. It was an amazing job. I was in London interviewing movie stars and doing different things. And then I went to a startup, Love in Dublin, which was the biggest thing at the time. Like, everyone was talking about it. It was so exciting. And it was a really exciting place to be. It's just, for me, I guess, being a sensitive person, I just couldn't hack the really like rough startup mode. And I guess I was like, why did I leave my amazing job? And like it was such a good media family, and because so much the industry can be like quite bullshitty. And
there was generally a low staff turnover in entertainment.
Very low staff turnover, and very much like this camaraderie, which is sometimes hard to come by, I think, in media as well, because it's quite a small industry, so it can be quite competitive. Then I went there and I was like balls, and got really sick, actually, because that's just how stress affected me. I just started I had pretty much a breakdown. And then I took a couple of months off work, which was very hard for me because I had been that driven, and I was like, I had my sights set on like going up and up and up, because I was only 24, having been editor. I was like, where will I be in a few years? Suddenly I was unemployed, on the dole, being like, I can't leave my house because my anxiety was so bad. And you had took my old job back. There was no other job for me to do. Um,
I'm like,
I know.
I'm getting the blame for this. I went off to be the editor of Jo.ie for a couple of years,
yeah.
and then
I gave you your job back.
Yeah, you suggested I should come back.
Gave it back.
I was delighted to come back and work with Julian and the guys again.
Yeah, and then I was like, damn him, I want to be back there. And yeah, so I took some time off, had to focus on getting better. It took a really long time. And then I went to work for Image magazine. And that was great because I had been predominantly digital and now I wanted to kind of learn the print side of things. So it was a really good discipline. And also it was a women's interest magazine. So I got to write about things like what I was experiencing, so stress and health and well-being. And in a way that was kind of like therapeutic for me. You know, it was like to be able to write about what I was going through and have people read it and be like, oh my God, I feel that way too. And I was like, oh great, because I was just like researching therapy in the office hours, being like, this is work. And then eventually I got the confidence to go freelance and then the books happened.
Yeah, I mean, the freelance thing must have been fairly daunting, given kind of the stress of before. And
yeah, it was very scary to walk away from the security of a job. But I just sort of felt like I had built up enough context at that point, and media in Ireland is definitely who you know and your reputation.
It's such a small circle. It really is.
It is really
we
small.
know each other for almost 8-9 years or something at this stage.
Far too long.
And there's a lot of people kind of coming and going.
I know.
I just got that slag there. Thanks, Caroline.
Sorry.
There's a lot of people kind of coming and going as well, and you kind of end up back in the same place.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I'd always say about, and we don't want this conversation to be too media heavy, I suppose, but be careful about what you say about, you know.
Don't burn any bridges.
Don't burn any bridges. Don't be like tweeting abuse or whatever, or, you know, sort of publications, because it is a very small industry.
Yeah, I know. And like, even though I didn't have the greatest experience in London, Dublin, I know that was my experience and it wasn't anything to do with the publication.
Somebody else could have thrived in that startup mode.
But other people were thriving in those scenarios. So that made me feel even worse about myself, that I just couldn't kind of get a grip.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is very important in the industry to kind of manage and have meaningful relationships with people, I think, and go beyond the surface level of social media as well.
So it was always that, okay, I need to walk through a little bit of fear here, but you always kind of had that in you with the movie junkets, with the, I remember you got your first interview in the US, in the UK was Hugh Jackman.
Yeah,
who's now in our Sting for the film show.
Yeah, because he slagged me, because I was like, so tell us about this film that you're in, and he was like, I love the way you say film. I was like, oh shit. And I was so nervous and so fresh and new that I couldn't roll with it. I was like, I didn't plan for this. Go back to my questions. And yeah, it is an Irish thing to say film, so you're welcome for the name of the film show.
Thanks very much. But do you miss the interviews? I know you still do. I know you still kind of dip in and out, but not in the junket sense of going over to the UK or you know.
I miss it so much because it was such so exciting. A lot of nerves, which I now take to be, you know, a good thing, and they prepare me to do a good job. And
it means you care, right?
It means I care, and fear for me definitely points me towards that which I care about. And if I don't feel fear, there's something wrong. And it was just such a massive sense of achievement to be like, I don't think I can do this, and then to do it and have a great experience. Obviously, like, the celebrity factor as well was quite cool, getting to meet people, fancying all of them, the men, and, you know, maybe getting a photo and just having a great conversation, and it just been quite isolated, and then being like, oh my God, I did that and I didn't think I could do it, and then you're on a high, you know, and then to go back from that and then like be writing movie reviews and things like, am I getting paid to do this? This is like mad. So totally like dream come true scenario, but yeah, I really miss that.
Isn't it mad how you can, I mean, and I say this all the time on the film show to the guys, I'm like, you review films for a living.
I know, like, don't complain ever.
Yeah, but it's like, you're probably never going to get rich doing this, or, you know, or you'd make a huge amount of money because...
But that's not my goal. Like, when I think about like the life I want to have, I do not think about how much money I want to make. I think about what lifestyle I want to have. So what is the bare minimum, or what is it that I want to do, and like what is the bare minimum I need to make money-wise so that I can be happy and actually enjoy my life? Because yeah, I could go off and go into a corporate job and make hundreds of thousands, but I'd absolutely hate it and it would just tear me apart. So I'm quite happy being like a little bit poor but creative.
Yeah, but I mean, you're getting married now in the next few months too. And your fiance Barry he's in that corporate world, so he's obviously been a great support. Like while you were doing the books, I want to get into the books, but while you were doing the books, to have Barry, to have somebody with that just kind of steady job, has no interest in any of the media stuff, which is great as well.
Yeah, like he doesn't give a shit. It's great. He's very much the kind of straight and narrow, and he calls me the wild card. So he's like, you go off and maybe try and make millions. I'm like, that's not going to happen. But it's great that I have that. Like, I know it's not easy for everyone to go freelance if you're on your own, but to have that kind of financial support there as well. That like, if I don't get paid some months, we can still pay the mortgage, and then I'll pay him back.
He can still pay the mortgage.
What's mine is his, especially once we get married. It's fine.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so the book. Okay, let's get into owning it.
Okay.
Because it was kind of Serendipity, how this happened a little bit, because you'd written
My favourite
a feature.
movie.
Yeah, your favourite movie. You'd written. God, it's a bad film.
No, it's not. It's a brilliant movie, and you love it. And stop lying.
Love is a strong word. But you'd written an article, and it was meant for one publication. It ended up going into the Irish Times, right?
So I actually wrote it for the Irish Times. My very practical tips to managing anxiety, because at the time, I was kind of coming out the other side of it, and I was reading so many things online that were like, do this one thing and your anxiety will be gone forever. And I was like, why is that not working for me? And all this absolute bullshit that was just so preying on people's vulnerability and preying on people's weakness. And when you're anxious in that state, you'll do anything and you'll believe anything will help. So I was like, actually, none of this stuff is helping. Really what's going to help someone is the practicality of knowing that really you have to kind of accept what you're going through right now and own it, which is where the title came from. So I gave the Irish Times a feature that was like my sort of chronological start here, where to start with anxiety, what to do, what not to do, and really like prescriptive and no kind of just, chill, like nothing. It was,
you were pointing out like, look, I'm not an expert here, but this is what I've experienced.
But I very much have lived to tell the tale, and I think all I wanted myself when I was going through it was to hear from someone like that.
Yeah.
So that obviously resonated with a lot of people, and then my publisher then read it and was like, have you ever thought about writing a book? And like it had
that must have been a kind of a crazy, was it an email you got?
It was an email, and I was just like, you've definitely got the wrong email. It was definitely a very, very surreal moment, and I actually think I met you that evening. We went to Wagamama, and I was like,
the glam life, huh?
Just lovely bit of ramen in Wagamama. It was just like very surreal, and I remember one night when I was not asleep because my anxiety was so bad, and I was just lying in bed being like, this is hell, like I don't know when I'm ever going to be okay. But some little voice inside me was like, you are going to figure this out someday, and you're going to write a book about it, and you're going to help other people. And then I was like, you can't even like go out for milk, stop thinking that way. And then that happened.
So it's just like it was like baby steps before that.
Yeah, but like I wasn't even. It was like it was sort of a fate thing. I wasn't planning it, but then obviously when the opportunity came, while I felt very anxious at the prospect of putting myself out there and writing a book, and like, oh well, this is going to be shit, and you're going to fail, and how are you going to promote it when you have anxiety? I was like, I have to do this.
And the first kind of, I don't know if it was the first bit of press you did, but it was very early on, was Ryan Tubridy's show. Was he on 2FM at the time?
No, it was
Radio 1.
Yeah.
It was Radio 1, and that was really the catalyst, because the reaction you got. Because it was the first time you told your story kind of publicly, and speaking about the book, which is obviously your story as well.
Yeah.
Did you feel the reverberation of the impact?
Oh my God, like massively. Even just sitting there with him and having him read out texts from people, because at that point it was just very much me experiencing it myself, and then people to say like, you're articulating exactly what my son has gone through or what I'm going through, and I've never been able to put the words into it. I was like genuinely sitting there being like, oh my God, like I can't believe this is resonating with people. So that was the start of it, and I have to thank him so much for like having kind of opened the doors for me in that way. And then it went on to be #1 for 16 weeks. So it obviously resonated with people, and I still to this day get messages from people who I don't know being like, I needed to read that book, and thanking me for writing it. And it's so humbling, and it's so nice that it's something that people needed, to just, I think the reason the book was successful or is successful is because it helps to really understand what anxiety is and make it, normalize it. And, it's not this weird foreign entity that's come over and you're just crazy and you need to just get a grip. It's very, very normal, and it helps people assess what's going on and really gives them the tools to kind of get back on their feet. And it's really practical, and there's no bullshit about it.
Yeah.
And also hearing from a normal person like me, I know I'm like from the outset, I'm like, I'm not a professional, I'm just a normal person, and
I've lived it, I've gone through
I'm doing well now. So I think that's probably more valuable.
I had a very different experience on Ryan Tubridy's show the last time I did it before the McGregor-Mayweather fight in August. And I was like, because Ryan's got a genuinely decent knowledge of MMA, you can tell he appreciates the sport, and was curious about the fight, and I went on, and I call Conor McGregor probably the best athlete this country has ever produced. And good Lord, you were talking about reading out texts.
Yeah.
He read out some texts, and I went outside afterwards, and the guys were like, we have not gotten one positive text on that. But I mean, they weren't like giving out. They were like, this is a response.
Getting people talking.
It was like, I mean, ultimately it was a good thing for them, but I always think that was hilarious. I was like, all right, Radio 1 isn't my audience. It's certainly not an MMA audience anyway. But I met Noel Breslin. I met Brezzy through you a couple of times, and I had him on the old podcast, Manual. And Brezzy's a fascinating guy.
Yeah.
But one of the things I said to him was, I'd hosted an event with him a few years beforehand, or a year or two beforehand, and I was kind of conscious of how intense people were when they met him. and because obviously he's been an advocate for mental health for a long time, and has been very vocal about it, and has written his own book as well. One thing I found was that people were either asking him about The Voice and who he wanted to kiss, marry or avoid, or they were saying like something horrific about a family member with depression. Yeah. So have you had those kind of experiences with people kind of coming up?
Yeah.
That must be fairly intense.
It is really intense, and you do feel like I feel like I owe everyone something. So like I will try and I know what it's like to feel that way and to reach out and be like, listen, I'm please help me, or can you give me some advice? So I really feel for that person, and I want to get back to everyone. And people do, tell me they're really horrible experiences, and I relate to them so much. But
is it hard not to take that stuff on?
It is.
Sometimes?
See, that's the thing, because I'm not a professional. I'm not trained in the ability to separate myself from it. So
but you spoke to professionals all the way through.
Yeah,
to kind
I
of
did. But still, like a therapist will be able, because I'm like, how do you sit there listening to people's problems all day and go home and not be like, oh my God? So I'm a very open book, so I just absorb it all, and I've empathy to probably to my own detriment, and I know you're the same, like where you'd go home and think, I can't stop thinking about that person who's having a hard time.
Or dog.
Probably even more
dogs,
more so dogs. Cannot drive past a dog if it's on its own. I'm like, where's its owner gone? Anyway, that's a sidetrack. But yeah, it can be really intense, and I try my best. Now I probably don't get anywhere near the level of what Brezzy gets in terms of volume, but I try and get back to everyone. But it's hard because I can only offer everything that was in the book, and ultimately I can't solve a problem for someone, or I can't cure it, and I also can't take it on. So it is tough, and it's kind of I'm learning now to try and sort of keep a little bit of a distance there myself, because ultimately, like, and Brezzy was the one who said it to me, like the oxygen mask theory, that you have to put your own oxygen mask on first before you can help other people. So sometimes I'm fine and I feel really good and I feel more than happy to help people. But if I'm a little bit wobbly myself, because obviously like anxiety is something that would still come back at me, I can't get into everyone else's problems as much as I'd like to.
Well, there was a groundswell of support. We kind of mentioned the text coming to Radio 1, and then for 16 weeks after with the book. So people really rallied around you, like the media really ran. That doesn't happen for everybody. I've talked to people who've written books and stuff like that where just for whatever reason media just hasn't 100% gotten behind them, or even a small percentage has gotten behind them. But people really got behind you, and you got you did a lot of interviews, you did a lot of press. Do you think it was the anxiety thing, or just that core message of owning it that resonated with people?
Yeah, I think I was probably just at that time when people were just starting to really talk about it, and maybe people would have looked at my social media or seen me going off and interviewing Hugh Jackman and being like, oh, she's grand, like, she has everything going for her. And then, I think it was interesting that nothing that bad had happened in my life. I just started to really struggle with stress and anxiety, and people were interested in it made them feel like they weren't alone, I suppose, and that it really can happen to anyone, and you don't need to go through something really traumatic to justify your anxiety, because a lot of people were and are struggling with it, and they can't understand why, and they don't know why it's happening. They don't understand the anxiety itself. So I think that's why it was interesting, and again, that I'm not like I'm not just quoting from another book of like a tome that's this is what mental health is. I'm like, well, this is what I personally have felt, and I suppose because I was willing to put myself out there and I have no filter, so that was helpful. And
you started, you've done a lot of stuff for Businesswoman.ie as well, and you were the first guest for Women to Watch too. And there's some incredible guests there as well. Louise O'Neill, who I know is a friend of yours, is obviously and that's going to be coming out in the next few weeks. I think Louise is one. How does it feel being peers with those women and looking at these, these people who've also achieved kind of amazing things?
I don't consider myself like on their level, and I don't really want to get into like social comparison. Like, I'm just doing my own thing, and I'm really happy with what I'm doing. And
but to look up to somebody and to be like,
but it is amazing. It's Louise is like, she's probably going to get a restraining order on me because I can't stop talking about her. But she's so kind and generous, and like I said in the Women to Watch thing, she has really taught me that there is room for everyone, success-wise, and everyone can cheerlead each other. It doesn't need to be like I'm doing this so you can't have this either. So
is that have you experienced the kind of negative? I don't want to get too much into the negative stuff, but have you experienced the negative stuff as well? I mean, everybody has, right?
I think everyone has to a certain extent. Not directly with the books, but I have experienced situations where you're not, maybe it's not so beyond the surface warmly received that you're doing well. And I think that just reflects maybe other people's insecurities. And
Yeah.
I would have been guilty of that myself sometimes, where I'm like, fuck them, I won't be doing that, you know. And like, I'm a competitive person too.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it is like to be asked to do something at, you know, with Louise O'Neill as a guest, or Jennifer Skinner, and these are women that I idolise and follow and read their books, and, you know, would buy their products, and just I can't believe that I'm even if I am considered in that echelon. Wow.
Yeah.
But, you know, my goal, honestly, and this sounds cheesy, but it wasn't about 16 weeks number one. It was like, if one person who felt like what I was feeling can feel a little bit better, that's my job done.
No, because I think there's something kind of wrong with just social media now, and you know, the lack of nuance, and I think that comes from journalism as well. And obviously you were a journalist for a long time too, and I know you still kind of dip in and out, but just this headline culture. And this, like, it was 140 characters, now it's 240 characters or whatever it is.
I can never fill those 240 characters.
Yeah, but I just think it's nuts. And then on the other side of it, I mean, I'd like to think that this show is going to do well, but you've got like these global podcasts with like tens of millions of downloads, where it's not just, you know, 5-minute segments with 10 people on CNN or NBC or whatever it is, talking about an important issue like anxiety or like mental health. You know, like I know, and I know, going back to Prezi, he launched Lust for Life, where they have these long-form conversations. So do you feel, kind of somebody who's in it, and kind of on the outskirts of journalism now a little bit, I suppose, but do you feel it changing? Do you feel kind of media changing, or the medium itself?
I feel like it did for a while there go very clickbaity and lowest common denominator, and I think people were feeling just getting sucked into these rabbit holes of crap online. And I think now there is definitely a hunger to go back to more long form and more genuine quality, whether it's an interview like this, I hope, or, you know, a written feature or something in print, which obviously we want to keep going because it's not doing so well. But I don't know if that's because I'm in a bubble, like, because I still write for a lot of papers, and, you know, I've got so much respect for journalism, so I don't know if I'm just kind of emotionally invested in it, but I would like to think that people are now craving like a certain quality of content, and, like, you know, honest conversations about things that really affect people, instead of just like, I like this lip gloss.
Yeah.
I do like lip gloss. But, you know, a little bit deeper than that. Sometimes there's room for everything.
That's fine. Is that? Yeah, exactly. I think that's it. That's fine as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can just be you know, people just shouting at each other on the internet. I said this to somebody with,
Yeah.
you know, like, I had a funny one last week. I did Roddy, who we're going to have on the show, is my coach in SPG, and obviously Conor McGregor is one of Conor McGregor's coaches, and myself and Joe, obviously, who you know as well, went to the opening of the gym, his new gym in SPG Charlestown, and all the biggest MMA outlets in Ireland and the world were there. And I was only at waking up, I had to be there for 10, and it was super hot. So I have this cow's lick, you can't really see it at the back of my head, I kind of managed to plaster it down at the back of my head, but it was sticking up. And I was like, oh God, you know, just trying to fix your hair, and I sat down, and they were filming it from different angles or whatever. Did the Q&A with Owen, and Joe was like, you can't notice it, like, it's kind of a black background anyway. And I was like, actually, you kind of...
I've never noticed that.
Yeah, you kind of get, no, but it was like sticking
Okay.
up, like, you know, like Tintin or something from the back. But I was like, yeah, nobody's going to notice it. One guy on YouTube, has anybody noticed the interviewer's hair sticking up the back? Now, obviously, that's harmless.
Yeah, but like, what a sad person.
Yeah, but what would you have, I suppose, any advice for people, like, that's obviously media specific, would you have any advice for people who are, you know, kind of taking shit online, or Twitter, or kind of aligning themselves with people maybe they shouldn't be aligning themselves with, or you know, or you know, goals they, you know, should reach towards?
I think social comparison is a very slippery slope, and I think social media makes it even easier. And we've always compared ourselves to other people because that's, you know, how we measure our self-worth, which is how we shouldn't do it, but we've always kind of measured ourselves against other people. And I just think it's really important to be aware that that's what's happening. And first of all, people are arseholes commenting behind screens, and I know, like, I would be like, oh, you zone in on one negative comment, but like, you just have to try and first of all realize that we have a negativity bias, so you're going to zone in on the negative, and that's the way you've been primed.
Unless you're a narcissist, then you're like,
unless you're a narcissist, which would be way
oh, look,
better.
everybody's saying everything amazing.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just I try to really just not get lost in like scrolling for hours, and, you know, if you can feel yourself starting to be like, oh, you know, whether it's you're feeling bad on yourself, or you're starting to be like, nah, that's shit what they're, you know.
Or you're like dismissing the positive comments and like just kind of zoning in, like you said, on the negative ones.
Yeah, so I'm really trying, from watching, what's the documentary series that we were watching on Netflix with your man Jimmy Iovine?
Jimmy Iovine, yeah.
And he says, like, literally be
The
like a
defiant
horse.
ones.
The defiant ones. Have your blinkers on, and like, I don't care if anyone else has got 3 books out or whatever. I'm really trying to just be like, what do I want to do? And, you know, it's really hard, but you kind of, I think maybe with a little bit of age maturity you get there.
Yeah. Well, and a bit of talent as well. I mean, you can't just say, oh, like, look, you know, you're not saying it, but I mean, I suppose people can't just be like, work hard and you could get this. You might not be suited to this. You might be suited to something else.
Yeah,
maybe.
I would very much be like in favor of leaning into what you're really good at. You know, so figuring out what that is, trying lots of things so you know what you like, what you don't like, and really going instead of forcing yourself into something that maybe like, you know, there's certain things that I've probably thought, like people could say, oh, you could be a TV presenter. I'm like, I'd be so bad. So instead of trying to be that.
Well, you did do a TV show though. You did the Good Room with Jo.
But I wouldn't be like a TV presenter.
But I mean,
like,
no, what I mean,
that was, you know,
for all intents and purposes, you was for the RT player.
Yeah, but I don't think I was very good.
It was one of the biggest shows that they ever had, and because there's so much here, there's so many things you can kind of, so much you've done already.
Yeah.
You know, I've just turned 30, and depressingly so, Caroline, depressingly so.
I know. What age are you now?
I'm old, 36 now. I feel every year.
I thought
as
you were
well.
37. You're grand.
See, this is lovely, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just because of the grey in the beard, isn't it? I should have shaved again. Masters, it takes years off me. But no, yourself and Jo presented a show.
I know.
And an interior show as well.
Yeah.
So you kind of have done a lot outside of just, like you're saying, people, I could be a TV presenter, like you did present a TV
Oh yeah, I
show.
suppose. Well, like I make an effort to push myself outside of my comfort zone so that I learn and like get more confident. But that doesn't mean that every time I push myself outside my comfort zone, it's good or I'm really good at it. You know, maybe I realize, okay, I can do it, but maybe I'm more passionate in writing, that kind of thing. So I just think like really lean into what you're good at, and I think you'll really love what you're good at because we do more of what we.
And you know, and it's looking at stuff that you've done or objectively as you can, or having somebody look at it, be it Barry, be it Jo, be it another friend, and go, is this any good? Like,
I know,
you can be
and I just
constructive
see this thing, like I have a real hard time with doing something if I'm not good at it. Like I don't want someone to be like, this could have been better. I'm like, well, I'm just never going to do it again. It's fine. So yeah.
Like this is crap. Pick a different
and I'm
career.
my worst. Like for all the stuff I talk about in the book, don't necessarily follow it all myself all the times.
Yeah.
You know, especially with the second book.
Shocked and appalled, Caroline.
I know.
That you're not following your own advice.
I know. I'm trying.
So before we get to the confidence kit, you set up a business, Gaff Interiors, which is it's really grown exponentially over the last few years, hasn't it?
So myself and Jo Linehan, who you know well, Jo is my best friend and Jo is your girlfriend, and we met in Image, and we were madly in love from day one, and decided when we went Freelance that we want to do something together. And at the time we were trying to figure out what it would be. Jo was renting, I just bought a house, and we were really into interiors, and everything in interiors world was, first of all, really expensive, really like aspirational, luxury, high end, and in print, so magazines. So people like our age weren't really buying them. We should, but we weren't. So we were kind of thinking that there was a gap there for people who would, you know, have mortgages and bills and, you know, kids and stuff, like no money but great taste, and where are those people being catered to? So we set up Gaff Interiors
for the kids.
Yeah, for the cool kids, and it just seemed to like be good timing. And so we've been doing loads of really good content. We obviously did the show with RT, which was amazing to put us on that platform. And we never describe ourselves as interior designers, but we're stylists, and we know what works and what doesn't work, and we're just really passionate about it. So so like Instagram is just taken off, which is amazing.
It's obviously a visual platform, and it works really well for you guys.
Yeah. And I'm like particularly into interiors from even like it kind of all comes together for me, because home is like the place that I go to like recharge and, you know, self-care. So interiors goes hand in hand with that, to have like a place that you really want to be in and make it as nice as it can be. So so like things are going great. We've got loads of different projects, and hopefully it'll continue to go that way.
And the second book is the confidence kit.
Yeah.
After the first book did so well, you must have been like,
shit,
it's going to be loaded. I was like, I'm going to make some money here.
No, because that is such a misconception people have of publishing in Ireland. There's no one in Ireland. There's not enough people.
Well, you just signed a big deal for it to go out in America.
No.
Pick Caroline up for a loan.
Drinks, not on me later. No, there's no money. The money comes from, and this has been told, full disclosure, from like the offshoot stuff. So like having the profile of doing the books and then being like, okay, we want you to be part of this, whatever. But that's not why I did it. You know, it was great to write a book and be published author.
I mean, that is, I mean, all joking aside, that's incredible.
That is incredible.
You have this physical book. I remember having a physical book and I'm like, this is nuts.
I remember like the first day going in and seeing it on a shelf. I'm like, what? This is mad. And it's still, people still say, like, ask me. I'm like, no, it hasn't sunk in yet. Like, I don't think it will.
4 or 5 books deep will sink in, will it?
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
So the confidence kit,
Yes, so
it's similar in terms of the look of it, aesthetically.
yeah, it's kind of a follow-on. The reason I wrote it was, first of all, the first one did so well, so they were like, let's do another one. And I was like, oh God, what am I going to do? Second album syndrome, very real thing. I knew it wasn't going to be, well, hopefully it might still, but I knew like the first one was like a kind of a fluky, weird, people just went crazy for the anxiety thing.
Yeah, I think it resonated.
But when that book came out, I was then, having come from a point where I was so low and I wasn't functioning and I wasn't leaving the house and I wasn't socialising or sleeping, then to write the book and then to be asked to come and talk at this event and that event and share your story and be on TV and be on Ryan Tuberty's show and go on the Tonight Show on TV3, I was like, this is like a whole other like level. Like I'm only just getting used to being kind of back on my feet. So I realised that I had a long way to go in terms of building my confidence again and starting from scratch. And massively, I was always just so held back by the fear of failure. And there was all these like little roadblocks standing in the way of me and success, So I was like, okay, I have no choice because I've signed a contract. I have to do all this press stuff. So I have to try to figure out a way to get through all these things and not just get through them, but to thrive in them. So there's a great motivational speaker called Zig Ziglar, and he has a book called Over the Top, and the subtitle is From Survival to Stability, From Stability to Success, From Success to Significance. So I felt like the first book was me going from survival to stability, and now I wanted to go from stability to success. And as for the next part, I haven't got that figured out. So
that's on the fly, is it just as it kind of comes along?
Yeah, I don't know how I'm going to become significant. So yeah, it very much, the second book then organically came from me being like, I need to actually figure out tools to, less for people with like really bad anxiety, more for the everyday person who struggles with the fear of failure or confidence issues so it would actually turn out, I'm really proud of it. And even though I struggled with it so much because I felt like, you have your whole life to write your first book.
Well, yeah, I mean, as when the first book does so well,
yeah,
when there's a level of expectation that wasn't there before and the publishers were taking a punt on you too. So that must have been a nice feeling to, reward that faith that they showed in you.
Oh,
because
yeah.
the first one did so well.
Oh, yeah, I know.
So,
it was amazing. Yeah.
So that editor must have been patted on the back, or that person that found you must have been like, well done.
Yeah, hopefully. But yeah, no, it was definitely like a necessary follow-on, and I was thrilled with it then. And so it's been out since May, and it's very similar to the first book in that I distill all the science and all that sort of jargon shite down to what people can actually understand.
Sure.
So like understanding what fear is, why we fear failure, things like imposter syndrome, which everyone talks about.
Don't they say the top CEOs in the world, a lot of them have that kind of imposter syndrome?
Yeah, even the Elon Musk of Tesla feels massive amounts of fear, which I find so interesting. So the book was kind of about like, okay, let's stop trying to be fearless because that's not the goal. And actually fear drives us, like we said, it kind of motivates you and means you care. And for me, like fear and confidence are very much two sides of the same coin. And fear is probably quite necessary to get to confidence as well. So I just kind of wanted to change people's perception around confidence and thinking that someone coming into a room being all loud and, wearing bright colours, that means confidence, because it's actually, it's more domain specific. So confidence is more about, your ability. You feel confident in your ability as an interviewer, but you might feel less confident in another area of your life, such as cooking. I'd say you definitely don't feel confident cooking.
I'm really good at ordering food.
Yeah.
Really
can you even like make an egg?
I can, yeah. I can cook. I just haven't.
I can't even make rice.
I haven't had the need to. So yeah, so Barry's the cook in the.
Barry's the cook.
No,
I can cook, but I just sort of taught him a few things, and then I was like.
You taught him a few things, and then like feed me.
And then I was like, I'm writing a book. You need to feed me.
I'll be upstairs like typing away. Like.
Yeah. God, we went really off on a tangent there. What was I saying?
You were talking about the confidence kit, and you were kind of talking about the jargon you called it.
Yeah. So I felt like a lot of people would just think that confidence is this like big umbrella term for maybe being an extrovert, but I'm actually quite an introverted person. Though it might not seem that way. But I would, you can still be introverted and confident, or you can be confident in some areas and less so in others. And like for me, obviously, a big thing that I was trying to get through was like all this public speaking and being on this platform. But for anyone else, it could be like social scenarios, or trying to get a promotion at work, or give a speech at a wedding, or ask someone out on a date. So I kind of put together a very sort of bullshit-free, practical, prescriptive toolkit that people could follow. And that's what the book is.
So it's interesting. You mentioned a couple of minutes ago about people coming into the room and being the like loudest person in the room, and I suppose easy assumptions it is to make by going, oh, they're obviously extroverts.
They must be confident.
They must be confident. And I wrote a piece a couple of years ago about alpha males and what my, I suppose, idea of having trained in MMA for a few years and to think, oh, these tough guys, these are the alpha males, these guys that stick their chest out, or alpha females, whatever it is, or just these people in the room, and what people perceived to be the, pack leaders or whatever it is. And I found that fascinating, but my take on it was, look at somebody like Jimmy Kimmel, look at somebody like Barack Obama, look at somebody like Joe Rogan. First of all, Jimmy Kimmel's a comedian, he's a talk show host, and these are obviously celebrity examples of it, and there's many examples of it in real life, but my take on it was, Jimmy Kimmel wasn't afraid to cry. He wasn't afraid to go on national television and get emotional. Joe Rogan is the same. He's gotten emotional in the octagon, having done interviews. And Joe Rogan he's got such a big following, and he's spoke to Robin Black on this show about him. It was a friend of his, and he's kind of one of these guys who would be perceived to be, one of those tough guys. Or Barack Obama, when he was in his last 2 weeks in office, he made it about other people.
Yeah.
And I always think that's kind of a fascinating way to look at, I suppose, not celebrities per se, but what you were saying about people kind of coming into a room and being extrovert and being introverts. Yeah,
absolutely. There's so many misconceptions around that, and I think like true confidence and lasting confidence would come from those scenarios where someone is comfortable enough to be like, I'm emotional today, and like Jimmy Kimmel to be able to not just put on this bravado, because that's not real then.
That's exactly what I mean. Yeah.
So that's the goal, not appearing to be confident, but actually being so sure of yourself and comfortable with yourself, whether you're emotional or whether you're having a good day or whether you're loud or whether you're really quiet. Maybe the quietest person in the corner doing something is the really confident person. Yeah, and it's just somebody who's like, what do you think that is? Do you think it's like a self-assuredness that people have? It's just they're just comfortable with themselves? It's confidence. Yeah. Which just, it takes...
I wrote a book about it.
You should buy it.
You should buy it.
No, it's a skill that we can all develop. It's not a personality type. So I think that's really important for people to realise.
That's interesting. And, and that's kind of what I was getting at. Yeah. There was a point.
Okay.
That is kind of what I was getting at. You don't think it's something people are born with or something that people have within them?
No, I don't think so. And I think like we're born with the fear of loud noises and the fear of falling, and that is it. And every other fear is learned, and every other fear that we learn affects our confidence as we grow older. So just as we can learn fear, we can also learn confidence.
Yeah.
And it's so important that people realise that and don't just think, oh, I'm not a confident person, I never will be, so don't ever put me in this scenario. You can be a little wallflower and build your confidence. So it's really important to people to know that, I think.
And what other themes would you like to explore, like in further writing, further books, whatever it is you do, on maybe a podcast or something like that?
So,
is there any other themes?
Yeah, you would like to... I would like to do something on relationships at some point. This isn't really within the same realm, but I would like to write like erotic fiction.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just think it would be so fun. Can I not do the Irish 50 Shades? Like,
why would you want to do? Well, it's for the money. Like. For the money,
but also
they're
for the
very bad books now. Come on.
Okay,
now.
but I'd write them good.
Okay.
Yeah, for the money. Who are you kidding? We want money. I've written my books that were good and helping people. Now I want the money.
Now you just want to move directly onto the filth. Is that it?
Well, if I was going to write fiction, I just think it would be fun.
Fiction is something you'd like to?
I just don't think I have it in me. Now, all jokes aside, I know it would be fun to write erotica. I don't understand people whose brains can actually develop characters and have these arcs. I just don't get it. I think it's a completely different brain. Like, non-fiction is a million miles away from it. So unless I went and did some course or, infiltrated Louise O'Neill's brain, I don't know if I'd see it happening.
Yeah, because like Louise has obviously written, she's written like 3 books at this stage.
4 now, yeah.
4, God.
Yeah, but I'm really interested in...
super successful as well.
In editing other people's books. So people who maybe have brilliant stories to tell, who aren't writers, and it doesn't have to be about me at all, but like I would help them bring that together. So I'm doing a bit of that already, which is, a nice way to... It doesn't always have to be about me or my book.
And I know you have an event coming up as well. Is it already sold out?
No, there's still tickets left. So it's on July 31st, and it is a kind of a publishing writers, aspiring writers workshop or masterclass. So I have myself and international best-selling author Ethna Short. Also,
I thought you were calling yourself I have myself international best-selling author.
No, not yet. So she takes care of the fiction stuff. She's phenomenal, and I've got editorial directors and I've literary agents. So for anyone who really has an idea or wants to kind of know more about publishing, how to get a book written and get it published, it's like a really cool. It's really intimate, and I'll have goodie bags and everything. So
so what did you want to do? Did that come out of a need to like people constantly saying this to you?
People ask me all the time, and I just thought it was a good idea. So I'm pretty like, once I have an idea, I'm like, so I had the idea on Friday, Barry was going off in his stag. I was like, I think I might do this thing. He came back on Monday, a shell of a human being. And I was like, yeah, it's all sorted. I have all my speakers. And he's like, Jesus Christ. Like, and it was a weekend, so how could you get anything done?
Just leave me alone.
I know.
I've had a 3-day hangover, like.
Yeah, but that's like probably part of my anxiety as well, that I'm like, I'm doing it. It's happening. I'm doing it now. And I won't stop until it's done.
So before we go, the books are coming out in the US. So both books are coming out. I know Russia as well, and they're coming out in other markets too. France
and Germany, yeah.
That's kind of nuts to be going in different languages,
I
first of all.
know.
But for me, the bar of success, not bar of success, and everybody has their own bars, and like you said, that the social comparison thing makes absolute sense, and I'm actually going to take that on. See, helpful.
One thing I helped him with.
But seeing somebody on like the Today Show or like, you know, one of these like American network shows, when you're going to be promoting your book, there's an opportunity. You're going to be doing lots of press in the US.
Yeah.
Is that kind of is that another hurdle for you to kind of get over?
I don't see it as
not to put the shits up here. Or anything.
Yeah, no, I don't see it as a hurdle. It would be amazing, but I wouldn't be nervous about it. I think I'm just like, bring it on. If it happens, I will put myself into I'll do whatever I have to do, because I have so much belief in these books, and I know that in America they would resonate well. So like, I'm planning to go over there and give it my all, and yeah. I don't know. I am more confident now, ironically, having written a book about confidence, which you'd hope with that title.
Well, I mean, you've done a lot of kind of talking as well about the book and events, and like I know you do a lot of keynote speeches and stuff like that as well.
Yeah.
So those speeches that you were giving, I remember when you were talking about giving the kind of first few speeches, and like I MC events and do events and stuff like that all the time, and walking out cold is one of the hardest things to do when to. You know, I did it in Vicar Street with nobody. The underline here, nobody had paid to see me, obviously. But you know, you're the person that's walking out cold, trying to engage the crowd, and it's a really
it's terrifying. Oh no, I still like shit myself beforehand.
But so do I.
That's
it's never easy, right?
But I found it a little bit easier because of the nature of what I was talking about was anxiety. So I was like able to stand up there and say, I'm shitting bricks up here. So I didn't have to pretend to be like, I'm fine. And then people really warmed to, because they're like, okay, this is a normal person, like she's relatable. And that kind of took the edge off for me. So I'm kind of getting to the point now where I don't really need to say, before you think it, I know I'm shit. You know, so I'm being less apologetic and more like, oh no, I actually can do this.
Yeah, I think that's what makes you more relatable, the fact that you're like, you make mistakes and you still go
100%.
Whatever,
yeah, there's no point, nobody would book me for anything if they wanted something super polished, you know.
Yeah.
So take me or leave me.
I think that goes for me too. Thanks a bit for coming in. I hope to see you. I'd love to see you doing something like a podcast. I think you'd be great at that. I know you've kind of talked about them before.
I know, I'd love to do one, but I want to do one that's like really good. I don't want to just throw everything out there now. I want to like. You want to
like have a certain kind of show? Would you like to interview people? Would you like to get back to doing that?
Yeah. Maybe you'll be on my show.
Maybe I'll be on your show. I need to write a couple of best-selling books for us, I think, Caroline. So the event's on the 31st of July.
Yes. Tickets are on Eventbrite via my social media at Caroline Foran.
We get that up there.
Yeah.
Up there down the bottom.
Follow here.
Follow here. Well, look, thanks a million for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Shout out to Dave O'Regan at the Charlotte Reed in production, and we'll see you next time.